So you may have seen our other video in which we used the user interface to interact with the HydroBlu system. We also support programmatic access to the system, and that's through our application programming interface or API, and it's also through our software development kit. So programmatic access enables researchers to connect with the system and query for sites for evaluations of the probability of finding groundwater at a site, and through the extensions that are coming up soon, also the water quality and the yield potential. So having programmatic access allows us to create third-party extensions and to use the system in a much deeper way, and being able to query for the geocharacteristics of sites opens the door to many other potential applications, for example in applications to agriculture and so on. So let's look at our software development kit or application programming interface, and just point out a few features here in the sample code shown. Number one, we can do all this in an HTML file. So you can write up basically some JavaScript modifications. So we supply a sample code, and you can simply customize this code. And you would go ahead and use this code to generate results in your browser. So now if you go ahead and attempt to open up this sdk.html file in your browser, you'll be confronted with nothing but a nice blank screen. And that's because, of course, this is programmatic access. We are not trying to work with an interface. So because it's programmatic access, what we have to do is access the console so that we can view the results of our attempts at accessing the data. So if you are using Firefox, you can open up the console with the hotkey Control-Shift-K. So that brings up the browser there. And on Chrome, it's Control-Shift-J, and I believe that's true also of Internet Explorer. So let's just rerun what we have now. First, you have to log in. So again, you do this in a programmatic way, so you can enter your password here. And let's put the wrong password in just to see what happens if you don't have the right user credentials. So I'm going to try to run this SDK now. And of course, you can see it's sending various requests in the background, and it returns that there's no that we have an incorrect combination of user ID and password. So let's put the right values in now. So I'm just going to undo that change to this this made-up account, and let's think about what's going to happen. So we if we have the correct details, then this login attempt will be successful. And so if it's successful, then the rest of this will work. So our HydroBlu system will not respond if we don't supply the correct authenticated session ID and so on. So you enter the session ID and into your code, and then you basically initialize the HydroBlu service. And now we can start querying the service. And I'm showing two examples here. This first example is where we are trying to query a single point. So to determine the probability of finding a good borehole site, or of drilling a good borehole site at this particular geolocation. So let's say for whatever reason we are interested in this particular geolocation. So we specify the latitude and longitude here, and then we run the eval site method, which is inside the so-called map locate service. So HydroBlu is in a sense a front end to the map locate service. So map locate.eval site, and then we supply the coordinates of the site of interest, and then we supply a callback function here. So this callback function will give us the results. So it will receive the results from the map locate service, and CL is for logging to the console. So we are going to show on the console, when we've received results, it's going to show us at this geolocation what the results and predictions are. So it's as simple as that. We just use the eval site method And of course that comes after we've logged in and authenticated ourselves, which we also can do programmatically. So let's run this. Okay, so it says logged in, and now it's gone ahead and queried that geolocation, and let's wait for the results to come back. There we go, the results are back. So you can see now that what's come back is a JSON object, right? JavaScript object notation. So it's a JSON object. If we click here, we can view a bit more about this JSON object. So you've got comments on how accurate the model itself is. You've got the probability. So at the site, it's a 46% probability of drilling a good borehole. And you can look up also lots of geo characteristics here. So under characteristics, a lot of data about that particular site. So that's what we can see for a single site. And now let's think about what if we wanted to investigate multiple sites. So instead of looking at single point, let's switch on the multi-select choice instead. Just commenting out the single point one. So now the system will go in here. And so to evaluate multiple sites, in this case, I'm generating points. So I'm saying I'm defining the corner points of a bounding box. So you define the latitude and longitude of one point, and then the latitude and longitude of another of the other corner. And then you specify the number of points that you want uniformly distributed inside that bounding box. And then that's going to result in a set of points here. So you can put that set of points in here. Now, what you could do instead of using this bounding box approach is simply create a set of points and just put that in here. But anyway, we've done it now using the bounding box. And so now you use eval multi. So in contrast to the earlier case where we were looking at a single site, so we used eval site. Now we use the eval multi method in the map locate service. So we've specified our points, and now the system is going to go ahead and look up for all those sites, the probability of drilling a good boreholes. So let's go ahead and save this first of all. So that's now saved, and now let's run this. And you see it makes things much more convenient, this programmatic access. We don't have to go logging in and clicking around the screen or anything like that. Now we are going directly to the evaluation of the model. Right, the results are back. And you'll notice that it's a JavaScript object with two attributes, column names and matrix. So on the column, you've got these 9 attributes, right? This is just an index, that doesn't matter, and that's also just some debugging information. So here's where the important characteristics are. So of course the location, then the geo characteristics, the accuracy of the model, and then your predictions and your probabilities are shown here. So if you look into this matrix, you see you have a matrix or an array of 9 points. So if you expand on one of those, you can see it's telling us, right, you cross-reference this index number against this column name. So the 0 position is the location. You can see here a latitude and a longitude. And then the characteristics, so these are the geo characteristics at that point. So all this data about precipitation and dew point and surface temperature and vegetation level and so on. So you can see here 1 is characteristics, so that's what we looked at just now. Then the accuracy, so that's talking about the models themselves. So this is not the probability at the site, this is the accuracy of the models, of the 6 models behind the system. So, so all the data for each of the 9 points specified are shown here. And looking back at the code, you can see here that we could have specified any number of points. We could have chosen any corners for the bounding box. So that's using the eval multi aspect of the HydroBlu system. Right, so through programmatic access, you can go ahead and create many other applications of the HydroBlu service. So I've mentioned agri applications, but there are other applications involved in environmental impact assessment and so on that this kind of access would also facilitate.